العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما نافعا وعملا صالحا. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما نافعا وعملا صالحا. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما نافعا وعملا صالحا. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. اللهم ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. اللهم ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. اللهم ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. اللهم ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. اللهم ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. اللهم ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والعجز والكسل والبخل والجبن وغلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الهم ونعوذ بك من العجز ونعوذ بك من الكسل ونعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والعجز والكسل والبخل والجبن وغلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والعجز والكسل والبخل والجبن وغلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. أما بعد فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Can I have two more of these? Yeah. Get three more will be good. It's too long. Okay, so today we're starting a new class, and that's titled as Mindsets from Surah Yusuf. One of the main reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the biography of Yusuf alayhi salam in one go is because it's a personal journey amongst family of the trials and tribulations one goes through amongst siblings, and this can include also relatives. The biography of Yusuf alayhi salam in terms of emotional and psychological trials that he went through from his close people and his loved ones was very severe. It lasted for a good 40 years, and generally family problems last that long. And the reason is very draining emotionally and psychologically, because you cannot say it to anyone and everyone. You cannot say it to anyone and everyone because the one who was meant to take care of you or was meant to be responsible over you, they themselves did not fulfill that responsibility and that duty. Yeah, and also they are very personal, private matters, and thereby it's very difficult for people to speak to people because they want to keep the integrity of their family and of their relatives. Okay, so I'll firstly recite some of the verses from Surah Yusuf, and then inshallah we will go into the mindsets and explain them in detail. So everyone should have the mushaf with yourself, so you can follow with myself the recitation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين وكذلك يجتبيك ربك ويعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث ويتم نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما أتمها على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق إن ربك عليم حكيم لقد كان في يوسف وإخوته آيات للسائلين إذ قالوا ليوسف وأخوه أحب إلى أبينا منا ونحن عصبة إن أبانا لفي ضلال مبين اقتلوا يوسف أو اطرحوه أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم وتكونوا من بعده قوما صالحين قال قائل منهم لا تقتلوا يوسف وألقوه في غيابة الجب يلتقطه بعض السيارة إن كنتم فاعلين قالوا يا أبانا ما لك لا تأمنا على يوسف وإنا له لناصحون أرسله معنا غدا يرتع ويلعب وإنا له لحافظون قال إني ليحزنني أن تذهبوا به وأخاف أن يأكله الذئب وأنتم عنه غافلون قالوا لئن أكله الذئب ونحن عصبة إنا إذا لخاسرون فلما ذهبوا به وأجمعوا أن يجعلوه في غيابة الجب وأوحينا إليه لتنبئنهم بأمرهم هذا وهم لا يشعرون وجاءوا أباهم عشاء يبكون قالوا يا أبانا إنا ذهبنا نستبق وتركنا يوسف عند متاعنا فأكله الذئب وما أنت بمؤمن لنا ولو كنا صادقين وجاءوا على قميصه بدم كذب قال بل سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا فصبر جميل والله المستعان على ما تصفون وجاءت سيارة فأرسلوا واردهم فأدلى دلوه قال يا بشرى هذا غلام أسروه بضاعة والله عليم بما يعملون وشروه بثمن بخس دراهم معدودة وكانوا فيه من الزاهدين وقال الذي اشتراه من مصر لامرأته أكرمي مثواه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض ولنعلمه من تأويل الأحاديث والله غالب على أمره ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون ولما بلغ أشده آتيناه حكما وعلما وكذلك نجزي المحسنين. Now, even though Yusuf alayhi salam, he was enslaved by another powerful human beings, and he was traded, he was sold, that not necessarily was the worst emotional pain for Yusuf alayhi salam. That wasn't his primary pain. The pain was what his family did, or more specifically what his brothers did to him. And in life, most of us, we go through emotional and psychological pain in a deep, painful manner, by which we are left with scars, where healing is very long term, and it takes a long time to heal, is done by or caused by people who are close to us, or who are beloved to us. So the more beloved to you the people are, the more door there is for them to cause you more harm and more pain. Or the more responsible they are towards you, the more chance and opportunity they have to cause you more harm and more pain, especially emotional and psychological. And thereby you feel hurt from them more than anyone else who is a stranger. If they were to hurt you in exact same manner, emotionally and psychologically, you would not feel the same depth and level of pain. The scar will not be as deep as if someone close to you that you love, or the one who is meant to be responsible over you, gives that same pain. And that's the prime reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the biography of Yusuf alayhi salam in one go. Because we all go through it. There is no one upon the surface of the earth who doesn't go through family problems. No one. Every single one of us go through family problems. The minimum is husband and wife. The minimum is the husband and wife. And the maximum is stepbrothers, or stepmothers, or stepfathers, and stepsisters, or half brothers and half sisters. That's the maximum level. And they can cause you the most severest of the pains that a stranger will not be able to give you that same level and depth of pain. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in one go in the biography of Islam, to make one point clear to everyone. To make one point clear to everyone. And that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with that journey of pain. He is with that journey of pain. You are not alone. You are not alone. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want to interfere in that reality that is with you, you didn't want to interfere with that reality, and that's why you did not have any other surah in between Surah Yusuf or the biography of Yusuf Islam. And you did not mention it anywhere else. In other words, it's letting you know that when it comes to your journey with your family, He is always with you. Every other trial and every other tribulation, it can come here and there and relieve you here and there. But the family one is always there. The family trial is always there. And because it's always there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also is always there. So always with you. Another point he wants to make it clear is that He does not forget. He does not forget who is doing what against you or for you or with you. And what you are doing against them or for them or with them. He does not forget. And the third point he wants to make it clear is that family feuds, family trials and tribulations, He Jalla wa Ala subhanahu wa ta'ala solves it in this life. He Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala solves it in this life. Even if it takes 40 years to solve. This means that the realities come out sooner or later. It doesn't matter how powerful or how authoritarian the others who are oppressing were. Sooner or later the realities come to the surface. Sooner or later the truths and the facts come out. It doesn't matter how manipulative they are. It doesn't matter how deceptive they are. It doesn't matter how sweet their tongue is when it comes to them covering it up. Yeah? Or it doesn't matter how sharp and clever and smart they are in terms of them covering the facts, the truths and the realities up. Sooner or later Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring it out. Even if it means in a very miraculous way. It will happen. So fundamentally, these three messages Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give to every human being and most importantly to every Muslim. And the reason is because so you do not do anything wrong against your family. So you do not do anything wrong against your family. Just because they are doing wrong, that does not mean you do wrong. And we'll speak about how you can fight back and get back your rights without doing wrong. We'll talk about that later on in the next classes that are coming. Okay? But what he wants is you do not do wrong against them. You do not oppress them. Okay? Because if you be amongst them, then the result will be the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take you into account just like He's going to take them into account. And everyone will be taken into account according to the oppression they commit against their families. No one will be left. So it doesn't matter how elegant you are, or how eloquent you are, and articulate you are, It doesn't matter how powerful, authoritative you are. It doesn't matter how sweet you are. It doesn't matter how beautiful your character and appearance is. If you're oppressing your family, it will sooner or later be taken into account by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, it will sooner or later come out. It will not be left alone. Now, let me give you one statement before I actually go into the mindset. That statement is, when it comes to other than the prophets, Allah brings out the realities and facts and the truths more so through the physical creation. Simply because when it comes to the prophets, he can reveal the revelation and let the truth be known. When it comes to other than the prophets, that reality is not there, and thereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves within the creation in of itself for the realities and the facts and the truths to be found. So in other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more with us in terms of His attributes being manifested upon the creation than with the prophets. He's with the prophets with His speech more than us. But He's with us more with His attributes which manifest upon the creation in of itself. Yeah, I hope that's clear. Because that belief is fundamental for you to then not to oppress your family. When you know that He Jalla wa Ala manifests His attributes more upon the creation for everything that's been done for or against your family. There's a physical manifestation. And eventually these things are found out, these things are shown. Yeah? Eventually these things come out because the remnants and the signs, physical signs are there. Okay? So the first mindset from Surah Yusuf is Allah inherently empowers the believers. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's His sheer nature. His sheer nature is that He empowers the creation. He empowers anyone who has khair and wants to perform that khair or establish that khair. He empowers them. He facilitates it, right, for it to be established. So whatever khair that you have in you, if you try to implement it with your family, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sooner or later He will empower it. He always empowers it inherently. But you may know in the beginning have the authority, you may in the beginning not have the power, you may in the beginning not have the influence. But sooner or later you will have the authority, you will have the power, you will have the influence. He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will create that. He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will facilitate that. Yeah? You have to have that yaqeen. This is the reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Jalla will not see a khair in your heart and just leave that alone. If you have that khair in your heart consciously, proactively, then you go and want to establish that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obviously will then facilitate it, place barakah therein. Otherwise, what is the point of Allah being there in the first place? What is the point of Allah to exist in the first place? There is no point. There is no benefit. In the title I wrote, plans of Allah are always for empowerment. So it's to empower you and to empower others. That's the inherent nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more vulnerable and weak one is, the more Allah plays a role in their lives, takes care of them, and slowly but surely empowers them. The reason I mentioned that line is, one may say, okay, I have khair, but I'm powerless, I have no authority, or I'm vulnerable, I'm weak. As long as you have that khair and you intend no harm against others, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will play His role according to how vulnerable you are, how weak you are. So the more vulnerable you are and the more weak you are, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's authority and power will assist you. And again, this is not simply an abstract, theoretical, spiritual empowerment that He plays. No, it's physical. He creates and He facilitates that power and that authority around you. Yeah? It's physical. So I said that statement again, the more vulnerable and weak one is, the more Allah plays a role in their lives, takes care of them, and slowly but surely empowers them. So you should not think that I'm weak, so I will start to get my rights or to fight for my rights, I'm going to start oppressing. Yeah? I will do what they do. La, you have to believe with yaqeen. The more vulnerable I am and the more weak I am, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power and authority is with me. That alone should not only comfort you, that alone should give you the better plan, the greater plan. Yeah? The better option of execution. Physically, you should then plan to execute better. So in your plans, when you're planning to fight back and get back your rights, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you with His might and power. Have that in the plans. If you don't have that in the plans, then your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is futile. There is no point in believing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. There is no point in believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. Because in reality, you don't believe He exists. Because you're planning as a human against a human, yeah, without Him being there with His power and might, with His plan. So find Him and seek His assistance and execute His plans of empowerment accordingly. So you need to find Him. Okay, where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this vulnerability of mine, in this weakness of mine? Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where can I seek His assistance? So after you plan with the options, then you seek assistance. Where is the assistance I can seek from him? Yeah. And lastly, how do I execute it? Yeah. The execution will be just and fair. Allah will be there. Okay. Then the verses we gave is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that Yusuf will be very vulnerable and very weak when his brothers planned against him. So how did Allah empower Yusuf? Through the dream. Through the dream. So Yusuf was vulnerable. He was young. He was a child. He was young. He could not fight back. He had no authority, physical might to fight back. Right? They were completely blinded out of envy and jealousy, and envy. So they could not see the innocence of Yusuf alayhi salam. They could not see any other hurt and pain that would be caused to the father or to the mother of Yusuf or to Yusuf alayhi salam. They could not see any of that. They were completely blinded. To the level they wanted to kill him. They wanted to kill this child together. So this shows that how envy can blind a person completely if one doesn't self-account themselves. How envy can blind them to the level that you will want to kill an innocent child. And most of the family feuds is due to envy and greed. Those two. Envy and greed. There's a third one which is pride, arrogance, stubbornness, ego. All of those together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala empowered Yusuf through the dream. Now, part of this empowerment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when one is very vulnerable and weak, number one, is a feeling of superiority. That's number one. Allah gives you within your soul, within your heart, a feeling of superiority. That you are superior than the people who are oppressing you. You could be superior because of your purity. You could be superior because of your principles. You could be superior because of your values. You could be superior because of your morality. You could be superior because you have care for them. You could be superior because you have love for them. You could be superior because you know yaqinan one day you'll be above them in authority and power. Yaqeen, certainty. So all of these, right, are means of superiority. And Allah gives that within your soul, within your heart. That you are superior than your oppressors. The second feeling He gives is contentment. You're content of what they're doing towards you. And you see Yusuf alayhi salam feels that. He feels that he is superior than them. And he also feels that, right, whatever is happening is the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you feel a sense of contentment. That, again, there could be many reasons why you feel that contentment. Firstly, it could be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. And that's the greatest. Or it could be because you are better worshipper than them. Or it could be because your character is higher and loftier than them. Or it could be your reward in dunya life, the results of this in dunya life will be better for you. Or it could be in the akhirah life, your status and your rank and your reward will be loftier than that. These are some of the reasons where you feel content with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, you have to work on this. These points I'm making doesn't come like that. You have to process it through your mind. You have to talk to yourself and you process it. And you settle in your heart. But initially, the feeling can be given, because you already have them, Allah just gives the feeling in your heart. The superiority and the contentment. The third, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you yaqeen in your heart that this circumstance and situation will end one day. It gives you yaqeen. Subhanallah, my mother, and even when I lose hope sometimes, my mother, subhanallah, you see that she's so vulnerable, she's so weak, she's old and frail and fragile. Yet she will say to me, when I lose hope, she will say to me, for example, inshallah everything will be fine. And I'm thinking, how? But for her just to say that statement, inshallah everything will be fine, and she will repeat it, inshallah everything will be fine, inshallah, she will repeat it with certainty, even though by her senses she can see that there's no way of overcoming it. But she says it with such a certainty that you know that she has yaqeen therein that one day this situation, this circumstance will be over. Yeah? That's the third. Yaqeen that this circumstance, situation will be over. How? You don't know. But you have the feeling of yaqeen. And simply that yaqeen empowers yourself and empowers people who are around you, who are vulnerable and weak, or who are under the same oppression that you are going through. That's the third. The fourth is you have a vision. Literally you see it. No, it's not a dream, but it's a vision, this flash of a vision that comes to you, that you can see those people who are oppressing you under your authority, under your mercy. Or you can see that the actual situation has completely changed. It's a flash of a vision that you see, whether at night time or whether at daytime, of the future. That happens when there's severe, intense oppression, or when there's severe, intense torture. That happens. Allah shows that He is with you. And the last one, dreams, true dreams. Allah shows you with true dreams that He is with you, and then He gives any of those points that I just mentioned. Superiority, so you feel superior, you feel content, you have yaqeen that this situation and circumstance will transform, and you see the flash, but in dreams, in detail, the circumstance, situation changing. Okay, but the point here of Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing that dream, the point to us that He's telling us that Allah was with who? Yusuf. When he was vulnerable and weak, Allah was with Yusuf, and He was empowering Yusuf through the dream. And this can happen to what? anyone. It can happen to anyone. Who was vulnerable and weak. So from that dream, what did Yusuf take? He knew the interpretation. So what did he take? The points we just mentioned. He felt what?
Superior.
He felt superior. He felt what? Content. He felt what? Yaqeen. That the situation one day end. And I will have what? Authority and power. Yeah? So Allah empowered Yusuf in the midst of vulnerability and weakness. In the midst of burning fire of envy and greed. So we have to work on not thinking negatively, not thinking in vengeful or revengeful, or not thinking with pride and ego and arrogance and stubbornness. Because if we do, then Allah will treat us the same way, because we will become oppressors. He will treat us the same way. Remember, Allah Jalla wa Ala is always there. Just like you're planning, Allah's planning. Just like they are planning, Allah's planning. So you have to work on how you fight back against the oppressors with all the legitimate principles, with all the encouraged values, right? Having Allah in the greatest of your plans and picture. Only then will you be able to solve it without causing what? And that's the fundamental statement I want to make. Only then you can solve it without what? Causing more harm. Only then you can solve it without causing more harm, and you can also reconcile the hearts, and you can then express your care and love for your family, and they can express their care and love for you, and you can then negate the envy and greed that they have, and the diseases they have, or all the diseases and envy and jealousy you may have. You can negate it and cure it. Otherwise, you'll be adding fuel to fire. Otherwise, you'll be adding fuel to fire. And sadly, most of us do. Most of us do. Most of us do, either due to we become vengeful and revengeful, or because we don't fight back when there's oppression. We don't fight back legitimately. Either we do the first, or either we do the second. The vast majority do the first, and then some pious ones, they do the second, but then they become frustrated because they're not attaining anything. So then eventually they become vengeful in the wrong way. Inshallah, in the next classes we will speak about next mindsets, and then we'll talk about how to proactively have those points in our hearts, settle in our hearts, and then proactively, consciously to go and fight back and get back the rights without causing more harm. Barakallahu feekum. جزاكم الله خير. تقبل الله منا ومنكم صالح الأعمال. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا. اللهم اشفنا من الحقد والحسد والعين والمس والسحر. اللهم ألف بين قلوب أهلنا وأسرتنا يا أرحم الراحمين يا أكرم الأكرمين يا أجود الأجودين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Oh. Yeah, questions? Any questions, inshallah, we'll take. The question is, can the superiority be mistaken for arrogance? Yes, it can. But as long as you want the solution of the problem and you want to reconcile the families and the relatives, right? You have that as your main objective and the main goal, right? Then the feeling of superiority will be more for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and more around the truth and facts and realities, and more around the objective of reconcilement and solving the issue. But if the solving of the issue and reconciling isn't the objective, then it will be arrogance and pride and stubbornness. No. We'll stop here. Inshallah, next week you can ask questions. We'll go more in detail, inshallah, next week on the other mindsets. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.